Tonight on Cox Forum, we're talking about crime survivors, and not just the survivors, but the organization as well. We have with us tonight the founder of Crime Survivors, Partricia Wenskunas. Also joining us this segment is Carlos Rojas. He is Deputy Chief, Santa Ana Police Department. Welcome to both of you. Patricia, you were telling us in the first segment about this attack on you, and there's actually, we have the pictures that were taken after the attack, and they are not very pretty, pretty amazing, and they're showing them now, and that's amazing that you went through that. And as you mentioned, that was just the beginning. It began an emotional, how can I say, emotional hell for you, because at that point you did not get what you expected in terms of the treatment from law enforcement and everything else.
Well, I think there's wonderful agencies out there. I think there's wonderful people that work in law enforcement and so forth. And I think that it's just a collaboration effort if we all pull our forces together. But when I look at those pictures and I see them now, I don't see myself. I see a whole different person. And I feel almost sorry for that person, because that person was in so much pain and not knowing where to turn or what to do. And when I see those pictures and I go out and I speak and I talk about, I always say that person, because that person is different. I am in a whole different place right now, because I really truly believe there's a difference between living as a victim versus a survivor. And so our organization really wants to say we are here to empower law enforcement, district attorneys, other agencies to collaborate and partner together to become a united force, so that we can be there for the victims, we can get arrests, we can get convictions, and we can put these criminals in jail where they belong, and the victims can then have the resources that they need to survive beyond the crime. And again, there is a difference between living a victim's life versus a survivor's life. So I really want people to know, don't feel sorry for me for what I've went through, but be empowered by what I've went through.
I guess it was part of your issue that you just didn't know where to turn. You didn't have someone beside you to sort of take you through the system.
I didn't. In the first 5 days, myself and my son stayed in a hotel, and I wish I would have had the resources the first 24 hours. And a lot of law enforcement agencies now do provide that information, so I've seen a drastic difference in impact, and I can't take the credit for that, but I really do believe that when the officers step up and they give that information to the victims, it drastically makes a difference impact in their future.
And Chief Rojas, talk about that a little bit. How have things changed over the past few years in terms of how law enforcement is now working with victims?
Well, I believe over time we've learned a valuable lesson, and we've had to educate and make our officers aware of the importance of the viability of a victim after the crime has occurred. And it's not only important from a prosecution standpoint, but it's also very critical to the well-being of that individual. So to us, that was a very valuable lesson that we've learned over time, and we want to create awareness amongst our personnel so we treat the victims as they deserve to be treated.
Looking back now, I guess there are some, just as you mentioned, you went and you holed up for 5 days, but there are things that you now tell victims that they should do once a crime has been committed on them. What are some of those first steps? And some of them are sort of counterintuitive, things that as a victim you might not think you want to do necessarily.
Right. Well, I think is just recognizing that you were a victim. It wasn't your fault. There's nothing that you did to deserve being a victim of a crime. I always say a victim doesn't wake up in the morning saying, I think I'll be a victim today. But a criminal does say, I'm going to find my next victim. So I want victims to know it's okay to reach out, it's okay to ask for help, and it's okay to accept the help. Because there's a lot of wonderful organizations and a lot of people, including crime survivors, that really wants to help the victims. So don't be afraid, whatever the outcome comes in the legal process, don't be afraid to call the police. Don't be afraid to trust the police. Don't be afraid to say exactly what happened, and write down, journaling, write down exactly what happened, so that, sometimes you have post-traumatic stress disorder and depression, and it plays, mind games, basically. So you want to have that written down, and you want to be able to reach out to the advocates and reach out to the counseling and therapy. I remember for myself, my son saying to me, I could hear him out of the corner of like my ears, basically saying, is she going to get up? Is she ever going to take care of me, or is she just going to sit there and cry in bed?
Was that what snapped you out of it?
I really think that's when I reached out to get really help, and that's when I went to a psychiatrist, I went to a psychologist, because I always used to think something was wrong with you if you went to counseling or therapy, and I learned that that's not true at all. If we reach out to a third party and we are willing to say we need help and we're not afraid to accept it, we can grow and we can survive beyond it. I'm definitely realized that I was a victim of a crime, but I'm a survivor. I'm proud of that. I will always have moments, and all victims will have moments, good moments, bad moments, happy moments, sad moments for the rest of their lives. But each moment is a step towards survival if they listen and they accept the help and they find different methods that can really help them.
In those first, I guess, minutes, moments after a crime has occurred, obviously the victim is concerned about their physical well-being, but what kinds of things can a victim do that will help law enforcement?
Well, a lot of it comes down to attention to detail, and it's very difficult in those traumatic type situations, but the more information that could be given to that officer at the time, the more likely we'll be successful in arresting somebody and prosecuting somebody. But oftentimes that's very difficult when somebody's in that type of situation.
And we'll talk more about some specific steps you can take as a victim, or if someone you know has been a victim, right after this.